You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of Kizuki as the following. Kizuki. 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler, and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with Kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, Domino Kizuki number 4, The Anger Diaries. I spent most of my life believing I wasn't an angry person. Sure, I got annoyed from time to time, frustrated occasionally, but anger? Real anger? Nah, that really wasn't my thing. In fact, I believed for most of my life, for decades, that I didn't have much anger in me at all. If you had asked me a while back what emotion I struggled with most, anger probably wouldn't have even made the list. And then I sat beside my pain. And what I found there was surprising. Anger. A lot of it. As I trace back the beginnings of the repression of my anger, one incident comes to mind for me. When I was 8 years old, I witnessed something that I think changed my relationship with anger forever. It was when my mother and my teenage sister were in a physical fight. They grabbed each other across the dining table. There was yelling. There was this enragement, pulling hair. It was messy, ugly, loud, and scary. As a child, I drew a conclusion, not consciously, but deeply. Anger is dangerous. Anger hurts people. I would have nothing to do with it. And so it is that long before I had much conscious awareness about it, any inkling of anger in me automatically got repressed. I became many other things: responsible, capable, reflective, compassionate, more or less calm, but never angry. Or so I thought. And as I shared in the last episode, I made this intentional decision to stop trying to understand my pain and instead simply be present with it. And as I did that, there was a recognition, a knowing that anger, in fact, was perhaps the most repressed emotion in my life, the one that never got the mic. And I'm sharing this with you because I don't think I'm alone in that. Because many of us equate anger with violence, with hurting others, with becoming someone we don't want to become. But just because anger can be expressed in such a destructive manner doesn't mean that it disappears when we suppress it. It simply goes underground. And so, in the spirit of sit beside your pain, I made somewhat of a surprising decision. For a period of time, I set my journal aside. No pen, no notebook, no trying to make sense of it. And for a while, I even set meditation aside. And that was because I just wanted to go into the experience, the repressed emotion, before I dissociate from it. Because I just needed to feel it. And this wasn't about distancing myself from the emotion. So I told myself that I would sit down every day and tap into my anger. And boy, did it have things to say. There was anger toward my father, anger for not feeling seen, anger for all the things that I had carried only because I didn't know how else to live, anger toward life for some of the things that it asked me to endure, and then anger towards all of the world stuff, the misogyny, violence, the lies, all the anger toward the needless suffering that humans inflict upon one another, and how it just seems to keep going. Not surprisingly, I also felt anger for myself. And almost in the same breath, I felt anger for all of humanity, for the pain we carry, for the ways that we wound one another and wound ourselves without knowing any better, for all the ways we fail to love just because we're not aware or we don't even know that it's possible, that it's an option. Then I did this for days. I just kept going. For as long as there was anger to tap into, I would feel it. Not work for the faint-hearted. But even then, there was some sense of rightness about it. Like I was becoming whole because internally I would no longer be repressing or separating some part of me, some emotion in me that I had, that I wouldn't admit that I had. And there was this innate sense that there was something very right about that. What came after was surprising to me, because as I tapped into the anger day after day after day, I had no idea how long it was going to go on for, or what would happen after, or even if it was ever going to end. But once I stopped pushing it away, once I stopped pretending that I didn't have any anger, I stopped making it the enemy. And then I felt this movement, almost like the anger churned and turned into something else. Surprisingly, I felt thankful, a fierce appreciation for being alive and being me, for my path and all the lessons in it, for my life, even the painful parts. The anger, it wasn't proof that something was wrong with me or that I was harboring something that I shouldn't have. The anger showed me what mattered to me. It showed me what I value and what I love, what I will stand for, and what I will no longer accept. For decades, I thought that anger was the emotion I needed to avoid. Now I wonder if anger was simply waiting to be listened to.
Thank you for listening. If you missed the recent Kizuki Journaling online session, the on-demand replay is now available at maey.live under On Demand. And if you'd like to be the first to know when the next live session opens, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter at the bottom of maey.live or kizukijournaling.com.